Hello, welcome to Conversation Starters. I'm Josh Mancuso, and I'm joined today with Dr. Chris Dula, and we're going to be talking about a number of things, one of which is his recent diagnosis of brain cancer, but also his new book.
Yes, sir.
And his effort to get on the Ellen Show.
Yes.
So, and maybe some more things that come up while we're talking. I'm sure there's going to be some good things come up.
Absolutely.
In this conversation.
I'm really grateful for a lot of things that have happened, including this opportunity to talk to you, because I think that even though this is a pretty negative situation in reality, that there may be a greater plan here afoot, and that we can turn it into something positive that helps other people through, if we're able to generate more attention, and we already have, we'll have more book sales. Well, the book was designed from the outset to be largely a charity project.
Right.
So the way it breaks down is that this is an opportunity to share that story, and I'm grateful for that opportunity. Thank you to you and to Tim for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad you're here, and we're going to get started. And just maybe if you want to take us back
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know you a little bit, and you're a very well-known person in our community, very well-respected person.
I can give you a pretty quick synopsis.
Yeah, give us a little synopsis
so
of Chris Dula.
I was born into a life of privilege, meaning, you know, I was born into middle class in a nice situation, had I wanted to, being in that I didn't understand what privileges were then. I was a white male Christian in North Carolina with a great public education system. I could have been groomed to just move right on, but I developed a real attitude problem, and I became a rebel without a clue. I became a delinquent. I became an alcoholic at age 13. I then became a progressively worse one until my early mid-20s, when I was a construction worker and not a very pleasant human being, and also had a serious alcohol problem, amongst other issues. And I then had a child come into my life that was the daughter of my second wife, and I adopted that child. I quit drinking. I got involved in my community college, and all of a sudden, a light got turned on inside of me, where not only did I realize that I could correct course, but I felt like I found some redemption. And some things big mistakes that I had made. And then I found a positive purpose in life. And I didn't know that I could be a doctor. I was in community college. I just did really well. And then I went to my local university, and I did really well, because I'm self-competitive. If I'm going to spend the time, the money, and the effort with a kid that I'm raising and a job on the side, I'm going to work hard and get this done. And then somebody in my senior year, when I declared psych as my major, which I'm glad I picked a major as late as my senior year, because guess what I get to do for the rest of my life, and didn't know at that time was even possible. I realized because of one faculty member who stepped forward and said, "You need to go to grad school." I'm like, "What's that, and why would I do that?" He's like, "More money, more freedom. You got the GPA. You should do this. I'll write you a letter." So, you know, basically, I got into grad school at Appalachian State University. I got my master's in clinical psych, and the process realized that I could actually go on to the next level and become a doctorate, and actually get a license and help people for a living. I didn't know at that time, but they had a class in teaching psychology. I took it, and it was very much like playing music, which I'd done. I mean, like being on stage, but instead of playing music, I'm using the same skill set to entertain people, to keep their attention, and convey to them knowledge that helped me change my life. Right, and give it to them, so maybe they can do something with it too. And then I got my doctorate at Virginia Tech. I did a one-year postdoctoral research fellowship at University of Memphis. And then the job at ETSU came open, and I got the job in the year 2004. I've been there ever since. And what I found was that my calling was to help other people see that with this education thing, this higher education thing, if you really understand it, if you really engage it, you can find something you love. You can make a good, steady living, but you can also find fulfillment while you make your living. But that takes active participation. It takes not screwing up your GPA in your freshman year because you found other things to do, like I did before. I made a mess of my life before I ever went to community college. By the time I got there, let's just say I corrected some course, right? But we know that people vary in their maturity and their readiness and willingness to be able to do things that are pretty daunting to begin with. But if I can help them see that light early on and go, this is an opportunity for you, engage it fully. And if you do, it'll pay you back so many-fold that you'll have a hard time believing it. Like me, 13 years later, I get to do this for a living. I get to help people understand what I learned myself. I get to tell them the science of psychology and tell them why that matters. Because it turns out, like, why would an 18, 19, or 20-year-old freshman care about the difference between a neuron and a glial cell in the brain, or the difference between the occipital lobe and the parietal lobe, because it turns out that down the road, unfortunately, in your family, somebody is very likely to develop a brain injury or a dementia, and you may literally be the only person in your family who understands that if the stroke that happens, if somebody happens here, why they can't move this part of their body, because you know which lobes are which.
Right.
And you'll know that it was a neuron that was damaged, not a glial cell that was damaged, right? That knowledge, which seems so abstract now, could become critical
Very relevant
when people
at some point.
want to know what's going on and they don't, because they just, not because you're better because you had your education than anybody else. You're not, you're lucky.
Yeah.
But that education may be the basis of helping other people to understand what's going on with them at a time that's critical in their lives.
Yeah.
So I've got to make my information relevant to the audience that I have. And the audience I have is largely freshmen. I got 320 people in the fall, 320 people in the spring, intro psych, which is, it is my pleasure and honor to teach, because I get to do that for a living. And I also get to do the orientation talks at ETSU and just tell them a little bit about my story. I was a problematic construction worker. Now, I have a lot of respect for people who do trade work, because I did it. I installed sheetrock, I installed flooring, I framed houses. Let's just say that skilled labor, no matter how skilled, is still laborious.
Yeah.
And the people who taught me were actually masters of their craft, right? They were tradespeople.
Yeah.
I did not share that passion. And so when I wound up in community college through a stroke of luck with my dad and my mom, I was pretty desperate. He's like, if you'll go to community college, I'll help you out with the rent. I'm like, well, I've been kind of independent for a while, and I'm not really wanting to become a partial dependent, but I'm also pretty desperate, and I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And if I don't like it, maybe I'll just quit. Yeah. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I get into community college, and I take a philosophy class by a woman who is taught by a woman who's a PhD, and I'm just blown away, because I've always been a thoughtful person. I like learning, I like reading, but I was kind of busy being a drunk who worked construction,
Right.
because I was a ne'er-do-well, ragamuffin looking thing. Guess what they don't care about in construction? What you look like, right? As long as you show up and do your job, they pay you.
Exactly.
Right, which helped.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like I got kind of the point where I couldn't see doing that the rest of my life.
Right.
So this thing happened, and I'm like, people actually sit around and read this stuff and think about this stuff and talk about this stuff? Like, this is a thing people do?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it kind of became this pathway that I couldn't have predicted would exist.
Yeah.
That opened up doors for me that, of course, don't make me any better of a person than anybody else. I was very, very fortunate that I had kind of gotten through some of my immaturity issues by the time I got the opportunity, and that I was able to seize that opportunity, that that daughter, Nikki, came into my life and cleaned me up, because I had to be there for her. I needed to be a better person, a better role model. And in so doing, I was able to fully engage the process. And now I get to turn it around and just say to other people, we all make mistakes. Yeah. Everybody can make really, really big ones. And that's what the book's about, essentially, is that having made some pretty big mistakes, not only did I find redemption, but I found positive purpose in my life. Yeah. And I live my life on a daily basis, and especially now, with even more gratitude than I had before, thinking that my job is not to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. My job is to be better than I was the day before. Realize, prevent mistakes that I could have prevented. If I make mistakes, own them and take responsibility for them quicker, and learn from them more acutely. So, and then to just get to do this for a living is just like amazing. And this is what we've seen in this episode that I've had, is this community that I have invested myself in for 13 years. It's mattered that I've been here. I've seen that it's mattered that I've been here, and that is so gratifying. I cannot think of anything more uplifting than to have seen the response from the community I have called home for all this time that I have invested so much of myself in because I wanted to, and love it dearly. And it turns around and loves me back.
You've made an impact, and now they're turning around
and showing me that I have, and confirming it.
Yeah.
I mean, I always kind of felt like I was doing, you know, for the last 25 years I've been working on myself. Certainly for the last 13, I've had a real sense of purpose. The ETSU is my home, and getting to work with all these students, whether they're the graduate level, undergraduate level. I teach medical students, pharmacy students, nursing students. I tell you, I get to teach a lot of cool people, a lot of cool things that are related, obviously, to my content area of psychology. In that sense, I get to engage my mind all the time for good purposes, and it's just like, wow. And I've been doing that. I play my music, and I do that a lot. Well, we always do it for free, but often for charity. It's like I've been able to do some really cool stuff that I think has been really meaningful. And you kind of assume that that's a good thing.
Right.
But then when this happens and everybody just turns on the love and the support, you get confirmation that everything you've been doing was not only done well, but was appreciated by people. And I have gotten some of the most almost tear-jerking messages that just, I had a guy, I won't say his name because I don't want to put him out there, but he said, you were randomly assigned to be my advisor 10 years ago. I was going through MS and cancer at the time, and we had a conversation that changed my life.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, wow. And I wouldn't have known that had this not happened.
Right.
I mean, somehow, I'm a clinical psychologist. I listened to him with compassion. I heard what he had to say, and he said, you told me you got this. You can do this. Like, I just gave him an encouragement message when apparently he needed it most.
Yeah.
And he felt it and he heard it, and I heard the story only because this happened.
Right.
And it just was confirmation that somehow, some way, at certain points in my life, I've been able, my honor and privilege, to have a positive impact on other people's lives.
Yeah.
And not that I changed it. He did all the things that he did, but that something about what I said that day had any effect on him whatsoever.
Yeah.
What an honor.
Yeah.
What a privilege.
And it feels like life is you can measure it in moments at times, and that was a moment for him, and you were part of that.
And I wouldn't have remembered the moment had this not happened. And he actually wrote me a very thoughtful, personal message, which he messaged me. And when I read it, I was just like, wow, that is beautifully heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heavy thing, but a beautiful thing. And I wouldn't have even remembered or known. But to know it now just makes me think that somehow 10 years ago, I was right where I needed to be, and I was who I needed to be for somebody else at a moment that they needed somebody the most.
Wow. You know, I'm thinking back to what you said a minute ago about that moment in your life when things changed, when you were kind of struggling with alcoholism and other things, and then you got into the community college, and then you had a child. And I think it's amazing how many stories that we hear about the moment when somebody becomes a parent.
Yes.
And they are responsible for another life.
And it changes,
all of a sudden, man, it whips you into shape.
Well, it did me because I never intended to have kids. I was a mess. But I never had it in my mind that I was going to have children. So when this child entered my life and it became apparent that if I kept drinking, I would lose not only her mother as my wife, which I was crass enough at the time that if it was just about the relationship and not about the child who clearly needed a parent, I don't know that I would have stopped her from walking out the door. But because there was a child who needed somebody stable in her life to help guide her, something inside me turned on that I did not know I had. I had a very deep paternal instinct. And I didn't just quit and like in a few days or a few weeks, I quit that day. And I have never touched a drop since. It was a critical rock bottom moment where it was like, this woman is going to leave and take this child, but this child needs me. So if alcohol is going to make that happen, alcohol has got to go. And I would have never, ever been able to do that before that moment. And so there was something deep inside me. And of course, there were some medical issues with my then wife where they had told her she could not get pregnant again. So we took no precautions. And we wound up with my biological son, who is my adopted daughter's half brother.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I mean, so I wound up with a boy and a girl who I got to raise, and that has been probably the most meaningful set of experiences of my life. I've done a lot of cool stuff in teaching, but nothing compares to raising two children that you love dearly. And like you said, there's something about that just fundamentally can alter who you think you are.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
That's good. So you're just an incredible person, and you have an incredible
that's very kind
story.
of
you are.
It's a pretty remarkable story. I would not go quite so far as to say I'm incredible as a person. What I would say.
Oh, you're incredible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Remarkable.
I would say
remarkable.
I would say that everybody's story is unique. Everybody's got a story to tell that's very important, that every individual is equally valuable with everybody else. But yes, I have lived an unusual life. It makes for a pretty good book, apparently.
It does.
All the reviews that are on Amazon, and there's apparently 10 of them now, and I don't know who they are, but they're all either 5 or 4 stars. That was written colloquially. This is not an academic book. I've been told for the last 20 or so years, you ought to write a book. You lived a pretty crazy life. And you've turned it around, and that's pretty cool. You should write a book. And I'm like, well, I kind of have a job, and I'm raising kids. I don't know when I'm going to write a book on the side. But, at the last year or so, I started the book in 1998 when I was in my master's program. But I also had a wife, 2 kids, a GA, graduate assistantship, and a side job 20 hours a week.
Oh, wow.
And then I picked up construction projects whenever I could because we always needed the money.
Yeah.
So when I was like, so I wrote about 60 pages and I just put it away. And last year, I finally thought, you know, are you or are you not going to write this book? So I did. I self-published it. It cost me $3,000 to publish because nobody's going to give a contract to any author that's unpublished just because they happen to be well known in a certain area of the country, right? Which it's my privilege and honor to be well known in the Tri-Cities, and I love my community. But at the same time, if I'm going to do this, and so I was able to pay for that, because that's cool. I don't owe anything on it. But the reason I did that is because otherwise the book doesn't happen, right? And so they put it on Amazon. They get it converted to Kindle. It gets sold through Amazon. They put it on Barnes & Noble. It gets converted to Nook. They sell it. They create their own webpage to help me market it so that I can have like a press release style thing that I can just refer people to. So they have some things. They also had some editing services, which I turned down because I said, I'll be using slang from the 80s, and the last thing I need is somebody questioning whether I meant to say that or not. So I just said, you know what? I'll just send you the final copy. There's a few typos, but I'm told that nobody publishes a book ever that don't have a few, and they're minor.
There's always a couple.
It says if where it should say in. It's the context tells you what. There's nothing that's glaring, but at the same time, you know, they wouldn't let me use my name in any format, which I'm like, that's going to be hard to market. I do know a lot of people, but they were very, very worried about litigation. So apparently, being a self-publishing, my son was like, hey, these rock stars write tell-alls and name names. I'm like, well, these rock stars have actual publishing companies with actual legal departments. So this self-publishing company, they're going to make a little money on the front end, but they're going to provide services for that. And then they're going to take a enormous amount of the royalties, which is fine, because that's kind of what they do. It's their business. It's their job. But if they didn't do that, then I would have no book to sell at all. Right. And so that's the way it went down. So that's the way it works. They wouldn't use my image on the cover. Marty Fitzgerald, the guy who does the ETSU convocation videos, is an amazing digital media artist. And I had this concept, the old me staring at the new me. And if you go to my pages, you can see the actual photo, but that's not quite the same as having it on the cover of your book. But I also shot it in landscape. Guess what books are in? Portrait. So they just twisted it and it chopped my head off, which solved the problem of my image. And I was already going to change all the names in the book because there's some pretty unsavory behavior described throughout that. But let's just say I was never afraid that my friends that I put in my book were going to sue me or anybody else. I was like, can I even claim this is my book? And they're like, of course you can. I'm like, I'm talking to this woman on the phone. I was like, is that because if you claim it's me and anybody decides to sue for libel or slander, they sue you? But if I claim it's me, they sue me. She's like, you got it.
I see.
I'm like, okay. And then the cover thing was a disappointment to me because this is kind of my coup de grace, my biggest piece of art.
This is your thing.
This is my thing.
This should be on the book.
Well, I put more into this. I mean, I play music. I do my own original music. I have a CD that I did a Kickstarter for that people paid me money that they earned to allow me to write my lyrics into a little booklet and mass-produce CDs to be given away that I do not take a dime for. In other words, they paid for other people to have my CD. Right, that's my work. So this is like the biggest part. And I had this concept of the covers, like kind of album art. And then I had the most awesome digital media professor doing it for free and not even wanting credit for it. And then they go, oh, we're not using that.
We can't do that.
And I'm like, oh, that's disappointment. But you know what? I can put it on the Facebook pages and people can see what the intention was. It's the old me. Versus the newer version of me. Not the perfect version, but the person that's going to be in development for the rest of his life to be a better person every day.
That's right. Wise words. Well, let's talk about the book a little bit more. You want to give any more insight to folks about what's in it? Obviously, you want them to read it. People should read it. Pick up a copy and read it.
It should be entertaining because I wanted to write it colloquially. There's a really interesting analysis about the storytelling aspect on it in one of these reviews I read, and it's really written because it was a wild life that I've led. I mean, I was, let's just say, interesting, and I hung out with incredibly interesting people. And we did incredibly interesting things that I don't always remember having done. And so to the best of my ability to remember details, I have lots of pretty wild stories in there. And then it just kind of details how I went from stage A to stage B to stage C to the best of my ability to recall it. But I wanted it to be conversational. I didn't want it to come off as like some kind of academic tone. I wanted it to be like I'm talking to you now. Like this is the story of my life. And this is how it went from here to there. But then you know what? I was able to take it from there to here, and this is awesome. And so that's the gist of it. It should be an entertaining read. Hopefully, it's an inspirational read. So maybe somebody who's really struggling with their life at some point gets a hold of this thing and thinks, now if this guy, because people who knew me back in my late teens literally thought I should be dead or in jail by now. And I think that was a fairly realistic appraisal in my late teens. I was a mess. And not only am I not dead or in jail, I'm actually doing what I consider to be good work for a living, helping as much as I can my community and individuals, and I'm happy and I'm proud of that, but I'm also grateful that I had the opportunity to turn it around. And so I wanted to share the story. I wanted to put it in a format that people would actually find interesting to read. Not like, oh, here's this long diatribe about this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's actually funny. That story here is, or I like the way, that turn of phrase. I like that. So I tried to my best anyway. I mean, it's hard for me to know as a writer, not having written anything non-academic. I'm published in my scientific literature.
You published quite a bit.
Yes.
I've noticed.
Yeah, and the thing is like, when you're a writer as an artist, which I kind of, there's a parallel. My band plays for free and it plays for charity, and and that's my mission I've been able to do. So the writing that I'm doing in this sense is also artistic writing. Right? And so I have the same mission. It's stated in my book before any of this happened that if I make back what it cost me to publish, I would then give at least 50% of any of the money I get to charity. Well, it just so happens that, whatever I make, my wife being a banker is like, we'll owe taxes on that money. Well, no matter how much you get in a royalty check, she's like, we have to. I'm like, well, since you do
pay taxes.
I'm like, here's what we do. You calculate that. We will take that off the top. We will save it back because God has presented me with this potential opportunity to get more money to give away than I ever could have imagined. What I want to do is we'll protect ourselves come April 15th so we don't go to jail.
That's right.
But whatever's left, X amount is left. 75% of, we're not fools, we're not giving it all away.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a mortgage to pay off.
Right.
I plan to be here for 50 years, but you know what? I want my wife to not
it.
have to worry about where she lives for the rest of her life.
That's right.
That'd be nice.
That's right.
But if it so happens that we pay off, we take the taxes off, and the first royalty is $100. Then $75 goes to a charity of my choice. I'm not forming committees. I'm not asking people their opinion. I've been very involved with charities. I know a lot of good people in the community and nationally, and I'm just going to give whatever percentage of whatever amount exists.
That's fantastic.
Well, not whatever percent. It's 75%. I just decided I'm not going to say over 50. I'm just going to make it 75.
75%.
Yeah. If tithing 10% is good, then giving 75% of money you never would have had otherwise seems right, because I'll still have 25% of money I never would have had otherwise that I can use to pay off my house so that my family's taken care of. And so in that sense, I've already kind of had a win. I've been the recipient of this incredible outpouring of support and love, confirming that what I've been doing is in fact what I should have been doing all this time. And now we've sold more than we would have otherwise. All I can do at this point is win bigger, because you and Tim put something like this together and people share it, get Dula on Ellen. Maybe we do get to Ellen. But if we don't, I'm completely and wholly satisfied with everything that's happened to this moment. I'm grateful beyond my ability to express in words, as I've said before. It's just, I don't even know how to put it. Like, it touches me so deeply. If we go to the national stage, what we'll do is we'll sell more books. So maybe the $100 check after taxes have been pulled out becomes a $100,000 check.
Exactly.
And I give that to
look
people.
What you can do with
and
that
I'll do my due diligence, and I will also disclose it publicly. Like when I do whenever I get any money, and I have no idea how many books has been sold. They will tell me in August.
Okay. And
at some point after that, I guess they'll send me some kind
of check. But it is selling.
Check.
I mean, people are reading it.
Well, I'm getting messages on Facebook, and people are posting on Facebook saying, "Got your book."
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, what an honor.
Yeah.
That you would pay to get something that I wrote, and that you would take the time to read it and then to review it honestly and say,
to tell others about it.
Yeah, tell others about it, encourage people. Yeah, basically, if you buy my book, you'll know that I'm only going to get a small portion of that, because that's how self-publishing works. They're a company, they need to make money. And that's fine. It wouldn't have been published otherwise. But whatever portion I get after my wife tells me what the taxes are, you're entrusting me to give 75% of whatever I have remaining to a charity that is quality, that will be a good steward of money to do good for other people.
Yes.
Very similar to my music mission.
Yes. So we want people to buy the book. I want people to buy the book. And so what's the best route for people to take in order to buy the book?
Well, to my way of thinking, because I typically buy things through the web. Amazon is there. It's actually under a pseudonym, because they wouldn't let me use my name. It's Steven Stage.
Okay.
Steven. Steven's actually my middle name. It's just my real middle name is PH.
There you go. Okay.
And they wouldn't let me use any version of my real name, so it's Steven.
Yeah.
And in 1998, when I started this book, apparently I had some sense that I would need to change not only everybody else's name, but maybe I actually made this name up in 1998. It's on the original manuscript.
Really?
And Sage,
Oh,
I just
wow.
thought, like,
That's
I've been
before
through a
you even
lot.
knew.
Like, hopefully I got some wisdom out of this, and it's alliterative. I like alliteration.
Yeah.
Steven Sage.
Yeah.
So I got that. And so if you're looking it up, it's not under Chris Dula.
Okay.
It's under Steven Sage, and it's called Experiments in Life.
Yeah.
And so the easiest way is to just go to Barnes & Noble's website and search Experiments in Life, Steven Sage, or go to Amazon, or you can go to, they actually built Ex Libris, the company that I work with, and I'm actually very satisfied with their services. They did everything they said they would do.
Yeah.
It's www.experimentsinlifebook.com / you can actually buy it directly off that site in hard copy, soft copy, or ebook. So whether you go Barnes & Noble, whether you go Amazon, or whether you go to the Ex Libris site, you can just search Experiment in Life.
And you can get a hard copy version.
Absolutely.
Of it, I'm still a hard copy reader myself.
Well, I had no control over this price they set. All I asked was that they set it as low as possible, but they did what they did.
Sure.
So the hard copy is $30. I hope that it's fair. I mean, it's
that's not,
it's a pretty run of the mill, I think.
Yeah,
I just didn't want it to be exorbitant.
Yeah.
I thought that would be unfair and uncool, but at the same time, so basically it's about $30 for a hard copy. It's about $20 for a soft copy, and the ebooks are very, very reasonable. I think they're like $5, $6, something like that.
Yeah. Good.
So if you do Kindle, or you do just, I think the one on Ex Libris might just be a PDF.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works.
Okay.
But in any event, whatever portion that comes back to me, my wife will calculate the taxes. We will hold it back.
That's right.
And whatever I have left, 75% goes to what I consider to be a worthy and quality charity that is going to do good on the behalf of humanity.
Excellent. Very generous and
well, it's just it's a privilege for me to. I mean, that anybody would want to read my book.
Right.
I mean, seriously, like to
it's
me,
humbling. I'm sure
it is. It's very much so.
To think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of almost like the least I can do, except like maybe 25% is good to keep.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I can use that because you know what? I have another book in me. My wife said, maybe God just opened up your schedule. I have a book I've been thinking about writing for years.
Really?
How to Save the World Through Social Psychology, in-group and out-group. How not to hate your fellow human being by default.
What a great idea for a book.
I've given that lecture. I have a PowerPoint. I have an outline for it. And I now have time where I get to still teach. Yeah. I get to still do my orientation. I get to still mentor my grad students.
Yeah.
I get to still do my research. And I get to still write. And guess what? If I had 25% set back and we sold enough, I would have just enough to do the exact same thing with a new book. I could just give the 3,000 to Ex Libris and go, let's do it again. But this time put my face on the cover.
That's right.
Because it's not a memoir.
That's right.
It's a book that comes from my discipline that could help people understand why we are so inclined to just hate people who don't fit our own stereotypes and labels. Like if I am person X, I have to worry about person Y being against me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how far back you go. People have always done this, right?
That's right.
Group A hates Group B and Group B hates Group A because there's this kind of mutual distrust. And there's no group that ever went to war that didn't think God was on their side.
That's right.
Right? People just believe self-righteously that their group, and this is called in-group, out-group psychology. We actually have quite a bit of data on it. I'm actually an expert on it. I think I could help people understand why we tend to stereotype, label, and be derogatory towards other people who just don't fit our group labels.
Yeah.
It's pretty natural. Humans have always done this. But the only way out of it is education. And what we're not very good at in psychology is really getting the word out to the general public about things that could change all of our lives.
Yeah.
And I think I could write that book. And like my wife said, maybe this is a bigger plan that you just got space that you wouldn't have had otherwise or couldn't have made for yourself otherwise to write this book. And so, yeah, if we get to Ellen, or maybe if we don't, I might have just enough money to just publish it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have to get, if I get to Ellen, maybe an actual publisher will give me a deal.
Exactly.
But I maintain that maybe they'll give me a Dr. Dula show.
That's the Dr. Dula show. I like that.
The Dr. Dula TV show. And I can go do what I do on TV, but here's what I will maintain. Whether I publish another book, whether I get some other kind of opportunity, anything that brings me money through this avenue, same deal, all the way through, by principle alone.
Yeah.
My wife will calculate the taxes. We will hold them back. Whatever's left, 75% goes to a charity of my choice. I know how people are. I love people, but I know people will start sniping once I make it public. Like, why'd you give it to them instead of them?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm impervious to criticism. I'm just going to have to say, trust me.
Yeah.
I will do my due diligence. I will give it
right.
only to people I think are good stewards of the money and who will spend it well on helping humanity. You could just, you're going to have to trust me on
that.
That
should be enough for everybody to say, go for it.
Well, and if you know me, and many people do, you know you can trust me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I say.
Yeah.
When I tell you I'm going to disclose to whom I give what
yeah.
on public forums like Facebook, you know that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
and I know that people will then.
You've earned that reputation.
Well, I hope that one of the hallmarks of my character, especially over the last 25 years, is integrity.
Yeah.
That I want it also to be compassion. I want to be an active person that helps my fellow human being, and I want people to know without a doubt that I can be trusted to do anything I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it well.
Yeah, excellent. Let's switch gears here a little bit. Let's talk, if you don't mind, a little bit about the cancer diagnosis.
Yes, sir.
Let's kind of go through that story and kind of tell me how that came about.
Some people don't know, and just to refresh.
How long ago it was, too.
Well, that's a little bit hard for me because what I have is I have a tumor in my right temporal lobe. And that means that this is the area of my brain that affects my sense of time. Okay?
Yeah.
Like my reality of like how long things are affected by the very area that has a tumor. Okay, so my wife has written a journal that I'm going to read when I can actually concentrate again. So I'll know exactly what happened and when it happened. But as I understand it, May 31st, I took Lala, my 5-year-old niece, to Hands-On Museum. Love that child, spend as much time as I can with that child. She's like a surrogate grandbaby to us. And we go to Hands-On a lot. We go to the animal shelter, see the kitties. We go to Just Jump trampoline park and jump. We just happened to go to Hands-On, and all of a sudden that day, which I think was the 31st, if I'm not mistaken, of May, I started to lose vision in my lower left visual field, meaning that she started to fade here and only here. If I moved down, I could see her in the top.
Yeah.
The right field was unaffected, but because of my training, I know that there's something going wrong here. Something is drastically wrong, and I think to myself, this could be a stroke. It could be in my occipital lobe, and so this child is incredibly smart, and I've trained her on safety every time we go anywhere. And I just said, Lala, I got a thing. I need to get back to Denise, who's a block down the road on Main Street. She works at Atlantic Bay Mortgage, and me and Lala have made that walk 100 times. You know, well, maybe not 100, but a lot. Yeah. We go to Hands-On a lot. It's a great place for taking kids, and she's always entertained. We stay there for hours. Anyway, I knew something was potentially wrong, and it could potentially be a stroke, which meant, like they say, and they're not kidding, every second counts.
Yes.
And I said, Lala, because I can still see her with my right field, and I can still think clearly with my brain. It was only this part here that made me think, oh my, something could be really, really bad. Yeah. And so I said, would you be okay? Can you take me to Denise's office if I'm really close to you and we just hang out together? She's like, yes. Yeah. I mean, she's like, so it's important to note that I would never put this child in any kind of a situation. Obviously, I can't drive her anywhere if I'm losing vision. Right. So what we need to do, and of course I could have called my wife, but she was so confident that she knew where she was and where we were going. She's like, absolutely, essentially. I'm like, okay. On our way out the door, she's like, can we go in the mirror thing? I'm like, yes, we can, baby. So we stop. We get in under the little kaleidoscope mirror thing. She smiles. We're having a good time. I'm like, okay, baby. I probably need to go see Denise now. Can we go? She's like, yes. We go to the first and only intersection. She stops as we have always stopped. She looks left. She looks right. I mean, I'm following her. I'm like, I'm right. I'm not, I don't have my hands on her, but I'm like this close to her. My only job is this child's safety. Yeah. And teaching her. So anyway, I'm watching her little ponytail holder, little pink ponytail. I'm like, I'm right here. And she stops because she knows to stop, but I didn't even have to tell her, but I would have if she hadn't. Yeah. She looks left. She looks right. She looks left again. She goes, we can cross. I'm like, let's hold hands. She's like, okay. We did. We crossed in the zebra, right? The crosswalk. That's right. We get to the other side, and we're not at this point 50 yards from where we need to be. Yeah. And I said, there's a lot of doors down there that lead into into hallways in which Denise's office was in a hallway. I say, do you remember which door it is? She's like, yes. Like, duh. Of course I do. Exactly. Yeah. This kid is sharp. She's my little hero. She's 5. She's 5, but she is incredibly quick to notice things and remember things. Yeah. And so she's like, yes. So she nailed it. We walk in, Denise is there. I'm like, baby, I don't want to scare you, but here's the thing that's happening. I got a thing with my vision, which makes me wonder if there's something not very, very wrong, and we need to get to the emergency, we need to get medical attention right away.
Yeah.
I went to my family doctor. I don't know why. Again, that wasn't the smartest move because they don't have the kind of imaging stuff. But she wasn't there, so we went straight over to the JCMC ER, where I had a full-blown seizure. But before I had it, Denise, my wife, who's an angel and has been managing all of my care, because it is hard for me to manage a lot of details right now as I recover from this surgery. Anyway, she called Lala's mom, because that's a weird scene for a kid to be in. We don't want to put her in stress. She got me where I needed to go. She's my hero. Then the second hero is my wife, who got me where I needed to be. And then Lala's mom came and got her so that she didn't have to sit in. We were in 9 hours in the emergency room where I had a full-blown seizure.
Wow.
First and only one I've ever had. I don't have any conscious recollection of it, but I chewed my tongue to pieces, because that can be what happens. And as I tell people, seizures are basically random firings of neurons throughout the brain, where your parietal lobe is now, where you normally have very sharp coordination. You're sending a signal from your frontal lobe to your parietal lobe, down through your spinal cord, out to your muscles, and it's releasing acetylcholine in a very specific sequence that I can make motions that are very smooth and coordinated. Well, when you have a seizure, what you're getting is random firing up here, so you get random movement. And that's why you see the shaking.
The jerkiness.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, in any event, that's when they did the scans, and they said, oh, you have a tumor right here. So we had to biopsy it. So we did biopsy it, and that, I have a great surgeon. And you know, they looked in, they grabbed a piece of the area, because we needed to test that area. We needed to see how aggressive this thing is, what is it, are there any particular genetic markers that's going to make it more or less receptive to certain treatments? So they did that. Well, to do that, even if you take a very tiny piece, you're taking out a neuron or two. And that is what, not soulfully, who we are soulfully, that's metaphysical and that's deep, but in terms of like your behavior and my behavior right now, you looking at me looking at you, me saying the words coming out of my mouth, that is corresponding to particular neurons firing in particular orders. And if I was to have a stroke in a certain area, I might not be able to speak anymore. I might have a complete droop of this side of my body. So those neurons are absent. So we took out at least a couple, but they did a scan and there appeared to be no bleeding. So they sent me home pretty quickly, within a couple days, which I wanted very badly to go home. I was not comfortable, and I just wanted to go home and be comfortable. So I went home. Well, of course we cut a capillary or something. There was a little bit of bleeding, but overnight, after I'd gone home, apparently it was pretty substantial, because I woke up with the worst headache of my life. I then went into the kitchen and apparently had another full-blown seizure, re-traumatizing my wife, who called 911, got me to the hospital. They then did the scan. They said, oh my goodness, you have a pretty sizable blood clot. That is when we cut my head open like a jack-o'-lantern, took out part of the skull, went in and got that blood clot out, because that's critical, because that blood clot's blocking blood flow to other, like basically it's like a stroke. And so we need to get rid of it. And so there's no fault. This is just what happened. It was all skillfully done. We know we took out some more neurons, because you're not taking out any material in the midst of brain where you're not taking out something that's very important also. But the thing is like, for me, I have nothing but gratitude, because I could have, and this is not in terms of probability, I was in such good hands with such skilled people that I wasn't likely to die, but theoretically, I could have died before, during, or after either of those emergency brain surgeries. Not only didn't I die, I could have theoretically had very serious and possibly permanent damage to my ability to think or my ability to behave in certain ways, or part of my personality. And not only did that not happen, but I'm getting better every day. My focus is sharper every day. I've got my own program. I've taken tons of data. This phone has become my best friend. When I take a walk every day, and let's just say I kind of pshaw on healthy living most of my adult life, I admit I was wrong. So what I've decided is, whether I live 5 years or whether I live 50 years, and I'm going for 50, I am going to every day walk at least 2 miles. I'm going to eat 1 serving of vegetables every day, which I do not like. I will eat 1 serving of fruit every day, which I do not like. So I've got a program, and I've been working it. I take data every day. I also look at other things. If I'm not sleeping, I'm managing this massive, awesome social media campaign, which gives me something sequential and focused to think about, which is working my brain. But I'm also using apps like Bejeweled. Well, guess what? Spatial reasoning is over here. And if I've got, so in other words, what's missing is a few neurons that were important, but there's a lot of other ones around. And what I know from my background as a PhD psychologist and what I teach is that those neurons that's called neuroplasticity, they can actually grow their axons into damaged area and take over function. They can grow their dendrites into damaged area and take, but you have to work them. And since I know that, I do crossword puzzles, I do Sudokus, I do Bejeweled, and I'm spending a lot of my time thinking about, what did this person do? You know, because this social media campaign is just amazing, but it's a lot to manage. But you know, I've been doing this kind of thing for my band for so long. It's like the biggest telephone pole in the world, right? That's what we were talking about before the interview. Is like, these things on social media are not for my own self-aggrandizement. It's so that I can reach my audience of students, and so that I can reach the audience of this community and tell them when there's a gig for a good charity cause. Right. And so it just so happens that for the last 10 years or so, I've done a lot of social media work. It also so happens that one of my best friends and a bass player in my band, one of several bass players in my band, is Dr. Stephen Marshall, who is the chair of the Department of Mass Communications. And so he actually showed me a way that instead of writing all this text and rewriting all this text and editing all this text, I could just make memes that say thank you for sharing. Because if somebody puts themselves out there and shares this on my behalf, I want them to know that not only did I see it, but that I appreciated it. Yeah. And I take that as an honor-bound duty, that I should acknowledge that anybody who does anything. Now, the thing is if I wait an hour, I got 100 notifications. I'm going to miss a couple. And that's a mistake I don't like making. It's hard to stay on top of that. But if I check every 5 to 10 minutes, it's 5 and it's more manageable. Right. But then I'm spending most of my time when I should be watching TV with my wife or eating or stuff. Right. So I got to be mindful of the balance. Right. But it does give me something very concerted and very purposeful to focus on, which means I'm working the other areas of my brain, which are going to be compensating. Right. And as it happens, I start my full-blown treatment on Monday, meaning I will start simultaneously radiation therapy and chemotherapy. We've already made the mask that'll hold my head in place while they very specifically target this tumor. Okay. And then they have the chemotherapy that goes with it that's supposed to target the particular kinds of cells that are affected. And so realistically, I'm very optimistic that I can manage this thing well and potentially have a real good shot at a cure. And I'm going to give it everything, whatever's within my control, because I don't control. I give up my control to the force in this universe that might have all of our stories written for us already. Right. And I understand that, and I respect that, and my job is to try to listen to what my part is to play at any given moment. What my part is to play at any given moment is that this can be turned into an opportunity where I can turn giving $75 into giving $75,000 to something important, that I could then maybe open up an opportunity to do other things and other good in the world. Because if I have to have this, and clearly I do, because I have it, what if it could be catalyzed into something actually positive instead of just, I mean, I could curl up in a fetal position and cry, and I mean, that would be normal. Anger, grief, shock, absolutely. But I've been working so hard on myself and my fundamental values, and you know what you find when your mortality is tested? Whether or not your bedrock values are in fact there for you, and it does seem that mine are there. And so I have a good, solid faith that everything is going to be okay one way or the other, and that I have been blessed to live an amazing life, no matter how long it is. And like I said, whether it's 5 years or 50 years, I'm going to live every day with more gratitude. A sharpened sense of purpose, a sharpened sense of we only get so much time, use it wisely. That's right. Do the best good you can to the extent that you can. But don't put that on other people, because not everybody's in the same place, right? Because people go through some tragic, tragic circumstances. I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. I came up with my own hashtag that I think, I'm 99.9% certain I made this up. Hashtag blessed beyond measure. Like, I have lived such a wonderful life, and I get to live in the midst of this really negative circumstance with some really realistic based optimism. But I don't want people to think that I'm not compassionate for other people who might not have that same situation and they're struggling. My good friend and the only grandfather I got left is my grandfather-in-law, Joe Good. We make music together. We go to Teddy's restaurant, and he's just awesome. He's a award-winning fiddle player. He had a heart attack last week. So my wife is under tremendous stress. She's worried about her husband. She's worried about her grandfather. And if I could, I'd have been there that same night. But knowing that the chemo and the radiation is going to damage my immune system, I can't really risk going into a hospital and picking up a bug that I might have next week. And that next week I start losing white blood cells. Right. And that then something I could have survived becomes a much more complicated situation that I probably could have prevented if I did. So I made him a video.
Oh, that's great.
And Denise is going to go visit him and show him the video, and it just says, Joe Good, I love you. I want you to work hard on your physical therapy. You're going to be fine. You're going to get back home, and when I'm fine and you're fine, I'm coming to visit you. We're going to jam again. He plays fiddle, I play guitar, and we're going to Teddy's, and we're going to have dinner again. That's
great. See, your enthusiasm and your encouragement, I mean, it's contagious, and so there are other folks out there dealing with what you're dealing with, and you say they may not have the same outlook or optimism that I have,
or opportunities.
Or opportunities.
Yes.
But what an inspiration that you can be and probably have been already.
I hope so.
And will continue to be on this journey. So
if anything, I hope that's the way it would be taken. Is only that. Yeah, I've come a long way from where I was. Everybody can make changes and positive changes. But if I was to take the negative aspect, it would be a totally normal thing to do. But what would it serve me?
Right.
It wouldn't help me. There's actually research data that shows that a more optimistic attitude is helpful to the recovery from almost any kind of health threat.
Yeah.
Right? So that having the optimism, but it has to be genuine.
Right.
And it just so happens for me that it is, because I do believe all the things I said. Yeah. And that's real for me. Yeah. But it allows me to have a pretty, I think, realistically based optimism. Yeah. Where other people might have a much more uncertain prognosis or an uncertain set of circumstances that they're not sure how they're going to get through something. Right. Or less of us. I couldn't be more supported by more people. Yeah. I mean, my wife's family, my dad, my brother, my best friend, like these people, my neighbors are mowing my grass. I mean, it's like, wow, everything I could want or need, my coworkers, if I can't do something, they got my back. Yeah. So I've got so many awesome sets of supports. And I just realized that not everybody gets that. Sure. And that's okay, because I'm not saying that I should feel guilty about it. I'm just saying that in a perfect world, everybody would have access to great clinical care. They'd have good clinical prognoses to begin with, and they'd have tons of support, and they wouldn't have to worry about how they're going to handle or pay for all of that. Yeah. But we live in reality, and so what I'm saying is, all of my optimism, I think, is reality-based, and I think it's very much core to who I am. But I also recognize that not everybody's going to be in the same space, in the same situation. Right. Incredible, incredible.
Let's go to your efforts to get on the Ellen Show.
Yes,
Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. How'd that come about?
Okay, well, let's
what
just
are you doing at this point?
Okay, so how did this become public? Because if you looked at this on the surface, it would look like that I made this public. Right. Let's just say that I missed an orientation, and I never miss orientation. That
at
the
ETSU,
people at ETSU, I do a talk. I give about a 10-minute speech about why college is a really good idea and why you should really engage it. Yeah. And make sure you go to your career services office early. Make sure you find your passion. Make sure you get your training, your background, your experiences, et cetera. It's a privilege to give, but I have never been late to it. I'm always early to it. So when I did not show up and I was supposed to be on stage in a few minutes, the people who run that, who are wonderful human beings, knew something was, like, maybe I crashed my car. Like, he has something is wrong. Yeah. Something is definitively wrong. Yeah. So they called my department. Secretary called my wife, who we didn't know a lot about what was going on, but I was in the hospital. I mean, we didn't have the diagnosis at that point. We just knew that, well, we did. We knew there was a tumor, but we didn't know how bad it was or what, how aggressive it was. We just knew. So she said, well, he can't make it. He's in the hospital. That got related back, and the person who took over for me to do the speech mentioned that Dr. Dula was in the hospital. Benevolently, I wasn't there, I don't know what was said, but it was said publicly, and I was inundated with people who cared about me. Messages all over Facebook, Twitter messages, emails going, what's going on? Are you okay? Can we do anything? And it was more because I had just had my head opened and closed back up, and I had been in the hospital the second time a week. When I got back, I didn't know how to handle all of that. And so what I thought is, what's the easiest way for me to handle all of these questions at the same time? I could just cut a Facebook Live video, which I'd never done before, but I knew was pretty easy to do because I knew people had done it. And my best friend said, this would be a really good story for Ellen. What if you got on a national stage with this? You might sell more books. I'm like, that's interesting because, I actually I'm usually at work, but I just happened to have seen her sitcom. I saw the first episode. I saw it until it was transitioned off TV, and she moved over, and I really like her style. Yeah. Like, I like her talk
she's great.
Yeah,
she's great.
She's compassionate. She's engaged. She's intelligent. She's trying to promote good things for everybody. And I'm
she's
like,
funny.
she's funny, and she likes to dance like nobody's watching,
right.
which I dig.
And if you get on, you're going to dance.
You know I am.
Oh,
I hope we're going to do CNC Music Factories. Everybody dance now. In any event, he just suggested that, that would be good. And I thought, well, I'm not really able to think logically. I'm not even sure exactly now usually I can talk spontaneous like I'm right now, talking spontaneously.
Right.
So what I did is I spent about 3 hours the night before writing a script so that when I did do a video, I could just read it and know that it was right. I had it in huge font on my computer screen, on my phone, and I did this. And I was just like, I mean, if it goes no further, I'm not only totally satisfied, I'm blessed beyond measure. But I just thought, why not? Yeah. It'll explain to everybody what's going on. Yeah. And they'll know. Yeah. And that I'm covered. And all I need is your thoughts and prayers. Yeah. Because I got a kitchen full of food and my wife's an amazing cook. I've got her taking care of every detail of my medical care. Right? Like she's got my meds lined up across the counter in baggies that say 2 p.m., 3:30 p.m. Like my phone alarm goes off, I just walk to the kitchen. I pick up the bag that goes with the alarm, take my medicine. Yeah. And so I could not manage that. She is an angel, and she's making possible something that I couldn't do on my own at this point. Yeah. And I'm getting better, and I'm being able to manage details and things a lot. But I worked today. Yeah. That was great. I answered emails, but it takes me a little longer to read and make sure I read them correctly. Sure. It takes me a little longer to respond to make sure I wrote it correctly because I just need to be mindful that I'm not 100%. Right. But I'm way, way, way better than the day I got home from the hospital. And apparently I've been home. Again, my sense of time is skewed. Apparently I've been home about a month from the second hospitalization. Okay. And every day feels better. I've started getting sleep. Yeah. Because I've started walking 2 miles a day.
That's right.
And so I get tired now. Whereas before I was on steroids that I had to take at 11:30 at night, which jack up your metabolism and gave me some pretty serious heartburn. And so it was really hard. I was on this particular blood pressure medication that I had to take every 3 or 4 hours all night long. So even if I did get to sleep, the alarm would go off. I had to get up. Exactly. Which of course I gratefully took. Of course I would. Yeah. Not complaining. I'm just saying it was really hard to get a good night's rest. Yeah. And now I'm resting on a regular basis. For the last 3 nights, I've slept at least 6 hours, which is amazing. Because compared to none or 1, 6 is amazing. Yeah. So in other words, I'm doing well. I'm getting better. I have a realistically good prognosis. And anything that's in my control, I'm going to do my very best to remain positive, fully engaged, and completely compliant with whatever my clinical team recommends. If they say do X, I'm just doing X. I'm not questioning X. But I also have some really cool clinical team members who are willing to talk to me like a colleague because I said to my neurosurgeon, I said, compared to you, I am a layperson, but compared to the average layperson, I teach basic neuroanatomy every semester for the last decade and a half. Right. I kind of know what we're talking about.
You know what's going on here.
Yeah, could we talk on that level occasionally? Yeah. And he's very gracious. He's like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, so this is something that I'm going to work my best to survive, work my best to thrive, work my best to stay around as long as I can for my wife, kids, and community because that's what I want to do. I'm okay if it doesn't last as long as I'd like it to last because I've been blessed to live an amazing life up to this point, and it turns out life itself is terminal. As Jim Morrison said, nobody gets out alive.
That's right.
It's not a question of if, but then it's when and how. So in this sense, I just want to be here as long as I can to do as much as I can for the people I love and the community I love, doing things that I love, right? And that's what my goal is. So that's what if it's in my control, doing my treatment as I'm told, right? Exercising every day, eating a veggie and a fruit every day. Yeah. Whether it's 5 years or 50, I'm going for 50 because I'm self-competitive. Right. I'm not competing with I want all of patients to win. Yeah, that's right. Everybody in that room, you want to win. Absolutely. That's right. But I'm going to work my best to try to do whatever I can to enhance the probability that we're going to be successful. That's right. And I'll also accept that I am not the author of the final chapter, but I will do my best to write it to the degree that I'm able in a positive and engaging manner, not because I think like I'm better than anybody but because I think that's the most effective way to get through it. Absolutely. But there's data that show that if you're a positive mindset, if you're completely compliant with treatment, that you're going to have better health outcomes on average. Yeah. Nothing's guaranteed. Yeah. Individual results vary, but to the degree I'm able, I'm going to do what I can.
It gives you a leg up. Yes. And There's a lot to be done. But,
and by me conveying that, maybe other people didn't know that.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
like that's an important concept.
Yeah.
Being as positive as you realistically can, but not
Right.
not laying a burden on somebody where they're not ready.
Right.
But if they can be more positive, that actually predicts better health outcomes. And if they can be compliant with treatment, when sometimes that's very difficult because there's going to be a lot of side effects with chemo and radiation.
Yeah.
And I got the list of side effects, and I said, let me just tell you. He's like, you might lose some of your hair. I'm like, you know what? I know it might look like to other people that I have some kind of a thing about that. It's just been part of who I am since I was 13 years old. I just turned 48. I was a metalhead growing up. I'm a musician.
Yeah.
It's not like I care. I'm like, you know what? If you save my life, you can make me look like a mangy possum. I don't care.
Take the hair. But
Take the hair.
If you save
hey, let's shave it and give it to Locks of Love if we do that.
That's
I'm not planning on doing that, but
Right.
but if it becomes apparent that I'm not keeping it, then
Right.
yeah, we'll just get rid of it. Because
Yeah.
you know what? Saving my life's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you could get nauseous. I'm like, I'll handle nausea. He's like, you could get mild headaches, moderate headaches. I'm like, I'll handle headaches. Whatever we got to do
Yeah.
to make this happen, if it's in my control,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best.
That's great, man. It's great. Love your. I think we're all inspired by your outlook, your attitude, and just like I said, you're kind of a beacon in our community. We're grateful for you, and we are.
Well, I'm
all
grateful to be in
behind
this
you on
community.
this
Well, you know,
journey. We're behind you.
Thank you tremendously. But it's a reciprocity thing. It's a two-way street. Like this community has been so inspiring and good to me
Yeah.
that I can be inspirational to it. It's just like that's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
We were meant for each other.
Yeah.
This is my place. This is my home. These are my people,
That's
and
right.
I feel like my purpose was to be here for the time I've been here. And that for whatever time I got left, I'm going to keep on trucking with enhancing my purpose.
Man, I appreciate your time. Appreciate
Yeah.
your story, sharing your story, being vulnerable, and just kind of talking about the things you've been through, and giving us a peek into your life. And
the way
it's
I
just
live,
great for
I'm
people to see.
invulnerable. Right? Like
Yeah.
I'm an honest person, and I'm a
Absolutely.
pretty public
Yeah.
person. But what I wanted to be able to do is share this story for the purposes that we talked about. That are all good purposes, I hope. But thank you for the opportunity to tell the story, because what you're doing for me is going to create a package that I don't have to write, you know, a 2-paragraph, 3-paragraph, you know, explanation. I can take the link that you and Tim are going to create and just say, everybody, please take a moment and check this out and share it, because it might get us to the next level. And if it doesn't, that's okay. But if it does, it just makes us able to do more.
Yeah,
It
just widens the impact.
Absolutely.
It widens the ability to help others. And you are a great candidate for the Ellen Show, man.
Well, thank you.
You are. I think
we'd be a good fit. I know she likes to dance, and I likes to dance.
That's right.
We're going to dance.
She would love you.
I think we could have a good time, and we could do some good work together.
Absolutely. And she's all about that. She's all about helping people. She's all about
when my best friend told me that,
when
it was kind of that moment of clarity, like, you know? I mean,
This
because
would be-
I didn't
this would
think
be
of that.
perfect.
My best friend thought of that. And I was just like, you know, as long as I'm going to be on the video explaining what happened to people who care about me, why not point out that that would be kind of cool? And it's just grown and it's grown and it's still going.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty live campaign right now.
Yeah. And if people want to join in that and check that out on Facebook, it's Get Dula on Ellen. Is that
It's the hashtag Get Dula on Ellen.
Okay.
And then there are other hashtags that actually direct more directly from Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of your social media platforms that are make it more likely that the Ellen Show staff will see it, like hashtag Ellen.
Right.
Or, you know, or at the Ellen Show, which on Twitter is their handle.
Yeah, okay.
So in other words, everything we can do, and I try to repopulate any post that I have with the same hashtag so people can just hit share.
Right.
And if they hit share or retweet, it's automatically got everything that they need.
Yeah. Excellent.
So all you got to do is get on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter, it's just a free app. Go to @ChrisDula, KRYSSDULA, because I have a different name spelling for my musical persona.
For your band.
Because I'm a pretty wild, fun guy. I'm a wild and crazy guy on stage. But I don't want that confused with the licensed clinical psychologist, full professor who takes very seriously what he does at ETSU.
Absolutely.
In other words, they're the same person, but they have different roles to play.
Absolutely.
And so KRYSSDULA is Instagram and Twitter, and all you have to do is just get Twitter if you don't have it already. Go to @KRYSSDULA, and there's just a whole slew of tweets. Just pick any of them and hit the little, what looks like a recycle button, and it will go out again with those hashtags, meaning that the Ellen Show staff will see again and again and
that's
again
right.
that people are interested in getting me there and that they're supporting that cause. And if you could go find any of the videos, and they're posted on Twitter, they're posted on my Facebook pages, and they're posted on Instagram, the more that people watch those, that increases the view count. The original video, 15 minutes or so, which I realize is a bit of a bear for some people who don't know what it's about. Like 15 minutes is a lot of time.
It is, can be for social media, but it's engaging.
The last time I saw the stats on it, it had been viewed over 67,000 times. That's what we would call viral.
That's a big deal.
But whether or not that constitutes national media attention worthiness is going to be up to the people who are in charge of the national media outlets.
Right.
So the more those things get viewed, the higher those view counts go, the more they get shared, the more likely it is that we'll move from this amazing regional local platform, which is good enough, to the national platform, which would just be better. Which would be
amazing, So get out there and share this stuff. Let's get Chris Dula on the Ellen Show.
Exactly, yes.
How amazing would that be?
Hashtag, which is your £, get, G-E-T, Dula, D-U-L-A, on, Ellen. And that is the hashtag that's being shared. And there's a few others that go with that, like @TheEllenShow or #Ellen. And that's all you would need to do. Just create your own posts or share posts that have been created by anybody else, and that will keep the momentum going, and it will keep the attention that we need generated to make that a true possibility. And if it happens, it will only be because people like you cared enough to do something that seems simple, but I know actually takes time, and it takes some commitment, and I appreciate deeply and greatly.
Absolutely. Chris, thanks a lot for being here, man. Thanks for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
That was an honor.
I appreciate it. Yes, thanks for joining us for Conversation Starters. Check us out next time. And for now,
and I'm going to post this later, so when you see this, go to their page and like Conversation Starters, because they got some pretty cool guests on a regular basis. And it's a great, I checked it out. I didn't know until Tim contacted me and said, you know, we got this. And then he told me some of their recent guests. I'm like, wow, that's really, I wish I hadn't known that. I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for this.
That's right.
So guess what I learned? Something new.
Good things come out of tough circumstances.
They can, certainly.
Absolutely.
Make the best of what you got without being unrealistic.
Absolutely. Good deal. Thanks again, man.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate you.